Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description. Okay, so imagine getting a 77% on a massive career-defining final exam.
Right. I mean, for most people, you'd be thrilled.
Exactly. You celebrate, you go out to dinner. But if you're the New Zealand All Blacks, who are historically the most dominant rugby team on the planet, a 77% win rate means your head coach gets fired.
Which is just, it's wild to think about.
It really is. So today we're unpacking the unforgiving psychology of winning, team resilience, and what it actually takes to survive when the pressure is completely suffocating. We're looking at this really fascinating piece from Planet Rugby that features insights from Kieran Read, the legendary former All Blacks captain.
Yeah, and we're exploring his thoughts through the lens of, well, one of the fiercest rivalries in all of sports, right? The All Blacks and the South African Springboks.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a rivalry that essentially defines the absolute pinnacle of the sport right now. Just to set the stage for you listening, South Africa is currently entrenched as the #1 team in world rugby. They're operating under Rassie Erasmus, who has effectively turned them into a machine.
They're a total machine.
Right. And New Zealand, who for decades had this almost mythical aura at #1, is sitting right behind them at #2. But the gap between #1 and #2 right now isn't about physical talent, it's fundamentally psychological.
And that's the core question we're tackling today. What separates a great team from an absolutely legendary one when the scoreboard is against you and, your lungs are just burning?
Yeah, because at the test level, the highest tier of international rugby, everyone is fast. Everyone hits like a freight train.
Exactly. You're not out-athleting anyone at that point. We're talking about a mental edge, an invisible psychological armor that one of these teams has in spades. And according to their own former captain, the other team has, well, kind of lost.
To really understand that psychological gap, we first have to look at the math, right? The mathematics of dominance. Specifically, what the Springboks have achieved recently.
Yeah, hit us with the numbers.
Since Rassie Erasmus took over in 2018, they haven't just been winning. They've been collecting hardware at this grueling pace, back-to-back Rugby World Cups in 2019 and 2023. Winning one is a monumental peak, but 2 in a row. That requires a level of focus that is, honestly, almost inhuman.
Not to mention the 2021 Lions series victory. I mean, for those who aren't deep into rugby lore, playing the British and Irish Lions is an absolute battle of attrition, and South Africa won that series 2-1.
Precisely. Add in their consecutive rugby championships in 2024 and 2025, and they just finished their 2025 campaign with an 85.71% win ratio.
Wow.
Yeah, 12 out of 14 tests. That level of consistency builds an impenetrable psychological armor. You step onto the field knowing you have the answers.
Right, and then you contrast that fortress of confidence with New Zealand. Ranked second, 76.9% win rate, 10 out of 13 matches. But despite that, they fire their head coach Scott Robertson and bring in Dave Rennie. That's an earthquake in the rugby world.
It's a stark contrast in stability, for sure.
But I have to push back a little here because going back to that opening analogy, isn't firing a coach with a near 77% win rate evidence of, toxic expectations?
Yeah.
Doesn't that suffocating pressure actually fracture resilience? If one mistake gets you fired, how do you play with any freedom?
I see what you mean, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to understand the heritage of the All Blacks. This team won back-to-back World Cups themselves in 2011 and 2015. Kieran Read was the first choice #8 for both of those.
Oh, right, 127 tests for New Zealand.
Exactly. For a legacy built by players like that, the baseline standard isn't just winning. The standard is absolute dominance. It's an aura of invincibility. It's unforgiving, sure, but it was the very foundation of how they achieved that greatness in the first place.
Okay, fair enough. Really quickly, before we look at how they actually built that belief, I just want to jump in and say, if you're enjoying this, please remember to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description. Okay, so how do you forge a team that believes it's invincible?
Right, and Kieran Read actually talked about this on the podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Rugby, with Justin Marshall.
Oh, yeah, legendary scrum half Justin Marshall.
Yeah, so Read shares this story that perfectly illustrates this mental edge. It's 2013.
A huge year for them. Last game of the season in Dublin against Ireland. They are trying to go totally unbeaten for the whole calendar year, but they are getting hammered, down 19-0. At halftime, they're trailing 19-7, backs to the wall, just defending wave after wave.
Which is usually when physiological panic sets in. Heart rates spike. Tunnel vision teams usually try to play hero ball, right? taking reckless chances.
Exactly. But instead of panicking, their captain, Richie McCaw, gathers the team. And he doesn't give some movie speech. He just tells them to relax, calm down, go back to their process.
Right, just hitting the rucks, communicating, trust in the system.
Yeah, and they inch their way back. 84th minute, everyone is exhausted,
Mhm.
and they drive the whole field to score a try. They nail the insanely high-pressure conversion kick and win 24-22.
The miracle in Dublin. It's one of the greatest escapes in rugby history.
But wait, I have a massive question about this. Read actually admits they got lucky with a missed kick from Ireland's Johnny Sexton earlier in the half. If Sexton makes that kick, the game is over. So how much of this mythical championship DNA is just, surviving a coin flip and retroactively calling it belief?
That's a really valid point, but Reed actually gets at this. You can't just switch belief on, and it doesn't control the wind on an opponent's kick.
Right.
What belief does is keep you in the fight long enough to take advantage of the luck when it happens. They had the mental space built over years to not panic. They had the evidence in their memory banks that they could survive extreme pressure. Without that belief, they drop a pass in that 84th minute.
Okay, I love that. So if relying on past evidence worked in 2013, why can't the current squad just watch that tape and replicate it? Justin Marshall asked Reed if the current All Blacks have that ability to find a way out of trouble, and Reed was blunt. He just said, no, they don't.
It's jarring to hear, but his reasoning is purely analytical. The current crop of players simply don't have those shared experiences of coming out the other side of impossible international situations as a unit.
Yeah, and he contrasted them with the South Africans, who he said definitely have it because they have this reservoir of experience. But the other layer he added was that the Springboks know exactly who they are and exactly how they play. Their identity is non-negotiable.
What's fascinating here is the connection to cognitive load. Under extreme fatigue, if you don't have a deeply understood identity, you try to invent a strategy on the fly.
Which leads to chaos.
Exactly. But the Springboks have a specific way of playing. Suffocating defense, physical dominance, calculated kicking. They don't have to think. They default to ingrained systems. The mental energy is spent entirely on executing.
It's like navigating your own house in the pitch dark versus a hotel room. In your house, you don't panic. You know exactly where the coffee table is. That's the Springboks right now. The current All Blacks are stumbling in the dark hotel room, second-guessing themselves.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. And Reed actually applies this to the club level, looking at Super Rugby Pacific. He points to teams like the Chiefs and definitely his old club, the Crusaders, showing that this fortitude still exists in New Zealand domestically.
Right. He mentions a hypothetical where the Crusaders go to Wellington to play the Hurricanes in a high-stakes final in a hostile crowd.
Yeah, the two-thirds rule. He says they know they can win because two-thirds of that team has been there and done that together. They have the shared history. They aren't hoping they can win. They know they can because they have the receipts.
But I have to ask, if domestic teams like the Crusaders have this unbelievable mental capacity to handle adversity, why isn't it translating to the current All Blacks? The roster is made up of these exact guys. Is the jump to international pressure just too wide?
It's a massive jump physically, sure, but it's really about collective synergy. It's like a basketball all-star team. You take an elite point guard from a fast transition team and a center from a slow half-court team. Individually brilliant, but under pressure together, they step on each other's toes.
Ah, so they're from different microculture.
Exactly. An All Blacks team is a mix of Crusaders, Chiefs, Blues. Until that national squad goes into the trenches together and builds collective evidence, the club experience won't fully bridge the gap. They have to forge a new floor plan together.
Wow. You can't borrow belief, you have to bleed for it together. And that brings it right back to you, the listener. Whether you're leading a project, managing a team, or just navigating personal challenges, Reed's insights are a blueprint. You can't fake belief. It's built through surviving hard moments and knowing your process when the scoreboard of life is against you.
It really is. And this raises an important question to mull over. If true belief requires the evidence of coming out the other side of adversity, how does a struggling team or a person in a rut manufacture that very first piece of evidence to get the cycle started?
That is the ultimate catch-22, isn't it? Navigating the hotel room long enough to turn it into your house.
Well, thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode. Make sure to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description. Keep questioning the world around you, and we'll catch you next time.